If we were to discuss games with large character rosters like League of Legends, Overwatch, Don't Starve Together, etc., then you'll find that most people will gravitate to playing one specific character. This is referred to as maining, and you'll often stick to your main for a long time. At least until a new update comes in and a whole new batch of characters to pick a main from comes rolling in. So, who's my main? Well, judging from the title of this video, you can probably tell already. I've had Kiara as my main since 0.3. Kiara's most notable feature is having the highest starting health out of every playable character, and of the 5 starter characters you can choose from, I'd argue that Kiara is probably the best one to teach new players the mechanics of the game, and with her rework in 0.4, she's evolved from being one of the hardest characters to play to being one of the stronger characters in the game. Kiara's starting weapon, Phoenix Sword, slashes a small area in front of her, and at max level, the slash deals even more damage and leaves little flames on the ground. It's very powerful, but be aware that there is a dead zone in her weapon right in front of her that gets bigger with any size buffs you add to her sword. Kiara's first skill, Phoenix Shield, makes it so that when she takes damage, the damage is halved and she gains a small window of invulnerability. It's only a quarter of a second, but that's still quite a long time when you consider how busted invincibility frames are. This ability can only be used 3 times at max level before needing to refresh, but the shield automatically refreshes every 10 seconds, and it's not like Fubuki's Friend Zone or Matsuri's Seiso representative, where you need to use the ability before the cooldown timer begins. The shield is constantly refreshing every 10 seconds. For example, if at 2 seconds you consume 2 shield charges and at 6 seconds you consume 1 shield charge, then you'll only need to wait 4 seconds to have shield charges again. Kiara's second skill, the Dancer, slowly heals Kiara and increases her damage by 4% for each second that she is moving, for a total damage increase of 80%. At max level, it will also increase her crit chance as well. This skill takes a little while to get going as you need to be moving around for 20 seconds, but the damage buff is substantial and is a lot easier to maintain when compared to its first iteration. Before, if you stayed still, you would immediately lose all of your Dancer stacks and would have to move for another 20 seconds just to get your buff back. Now, the buff only decays, meaning standing still for 2 seconds won't be as punishing as before. I personally like to do a little wiggle if I need to be in a single place in order to maintain the buff. Her third skill, Trailblazer, gives her a speed boost and leaves a trail of fire behind Kiara wherever she walks that damages enemies. And at max level, it also gains the ability to slow enemies down. This is arguably Kiara's strongest skill. While the damage is pretty average, it isn't meant to do damage, but to do crowd control. Because of the slowing effect, Kiara can easily group up swaths of enemies to then hit with her sword at her leisure. I personally run around in a circle herding the enemies into a big group that I can then catch onto the fire trails. With powerful defensive and crowd control abilities, Kiara is really shaping up to be an RPG tank, but she has one last tool in her kit that makes her nearly broken. Her special, Phoenix Fire, explodes and creates a ring of flames around Kiara that does damage to enemies, as well as give Kiara the immortal Phoenix buff. This buff lasts 15 seconds and does nothing to Kiara while she's alive, but if her health reaches 0 while the buff is active, Kiara will heal all of her HP. With this special, Kiara has essentially infinite revives limited only by her special cooldown, which is 60 seconds at base and can be lowered further with items like Idol Costume. In essence, so long as you have the timing down, Kiara is functionally immortal. As I said before, Kiara's playstyle is basically that of an RPG tank, where you can be a damage sponge but also have the ability to control the enemy waves. To play her effectively, you will need to run around enemy groups in order to herd them into one giant group. The group will clump up together since they will be caught on Trailblazer flames, and then you use your sword to slice them up, which will be buffed in damage thanks to Dancer. If you get hit, you can shrug off the damage thanks to Phoenix Shield, and if you take too much punishment, you can use Phoenix Fire to instantly revive. Because Kiara's playstyle is entirely supplemented by her skills, she is incredibly versatile when it comes to item selection. Because Phoenix Shield and Dancer give her so much sustainability, you can afford to skimp on defensive items and focus on pure offense. The old Pika Pika Pimon did wonders for her as it could be used to spam her special almost indefinitely, granting her eternal immortality, but the items rework made that strategy worthless. At least one healing item is a good idea, mostly for the general utility of healing items and not out of any necessity. And while Dancer does increase her crit chance, she doesn't have any crit-based abilities, so Gorilla's Paw isn't a detriment. I also personally recommend getting Mikoma and Dragonfire as weapons, but that's more of for aesthetic than practicality. So, that's Kiara. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for future videos, and happy holocuring.